Blackout drunk, BF tore apart who I am as person, but was planning to propose. My boyfriend and I have been together 6 years and lived together for 3. I am 22 and he is 23. BF is not a heavy drinker. He will buy a mixed drink at a restaurant, or have a few beers with friends but not regularly. Before a couple days ago, I have only seen him blackout once when we're 18. Well, his closest friend who graduated last year came to town. He and few others picked BF up. They got drunk at his Airbnb and hit up a few bars. He came home absolutely blackout drunk. Despite having a key, kept knocking and calling my phone. I opened the door to see him and his friend there. It's like he didn't see or hear us and kept calling me and mumbling, "Why the fuck won't she answer?" over and over. We finally get him inside after like 10 minutes and he sits on the couch. His friend puts his hand on his shoulder and asks if he is alright. BF threatens to beat his ass. Twice. I'm shocked. I ask the friend how his wife and daughter is and he was shocked I knew he had a family, so I'm aware he was blackout drunk too. He got all excited and started showing me pics of his kids. His wife shows up a few min later. She was the DD. And you can tell she was sick of their shit. We catch up and they leave. I had ordered food and asked BF he wanted me to warm it up or put it in the fridge for him. He looks at me and says, "Of course your fat ass is talking about food. All your ass does is eat." I say, "Dude, what the hell? I was just asking." He then goes in a full-on rant, telling me he hates me. I'm a fuck up since I'm in my 5th of college. My job is useless. I work at a restaurant. And I'm probably gonna be stuck there forever. That being promoted to assistant manager is no accomplishment and my standards are low. Says my nose piercing fucks up what is left of my good looks, and if I ever thought he would marry a fat bitch like me, I'm a real dumb ass. He told me wait till we graduate in May. He will be out of here on my ass. He stopped after our cat jumped on the couch and he pushed her ass, prompting me to yell, "Grab her and lock ourselves in the bedroom." I texted him everything he said and did, and just cried myself to sleep. Woke up a few hours later to him throwing up and sounding miserable. I will admit I was happy he was throwing up and did not check on him. The next morning, I wake up to him knocking on the bedroom door asking how he got home last night. I yelled, "Check your texts." He did, and starts crying hysterical. Says he remembers none of this, and has no idea why he would say that. He kept begging me to open the door and apologizing. He says that isn't what he feels at all. He told me to look in a specific box in our closest that should be a sign he never meant any of it. There 2 rings. My mom's heirloom and another one. A stone was missing from my mom's and it was on the other ring. My mom wanted each of her girls to get a diamond. So this was clearly discussed and planned and stuff as don't even live in the same city as her. It's been a few days and I'm hurt, confused and just really sad. Like yes, I gained weight. We had started working out together a few weeks ago. He has never called me fat or ugly before. He had said he loved my nose piercing. I used to wear fake ones and he encouraged me to get it. When I got promoted, he made it a big deal and told me was proud. He got me flowers, new earrings and took me out. When I said it wasn't a big deal, he kept telling me it was. He also will be in school 5 years. I'm just a semester longer. He is mostly respecting my wishes and sleeping on the couch and not touching me. He keeps apologizing and offered take over 100% of bills so I can save to leave him if I want. Open enrollment for my job's insurance isn't till November. That's when I can increase my coverage to include therapy. So counseling isn't an option until then, as his insurance doesn't cover it. If he said all that blackout and unprovoked, that means something, right? Any advice? The only positive is his friend has no memory either, so isn't mad BF threatened him. I feel sad. And uncomfortable. I feel lost. He basically has been crying himself to sleep too, and part of me wants to comfort him. And the other part is angry and distraught. Blackout does not equal truth. It stunts your emotions and processing. What he said was hurtful, and there may be some small measures of truth, maybe the weight gain. I disagree with what I have seen others say, that him trying to give you the option to leave as guilt of something. Sometimes when people hurt those they care about, they overextend the apology, etc. I would say that no long-term relationship is perfect, and I could probably state that people are human and you both may take verbal swings at each other, but how you handle it is what matters. If he is willing to maybe not drink and you're willing to get down to what really bothered you. Are you unhappy with your weight, etc., and work on it together, etc.? I may get downvotes for this, but I'll still put in my 2 cents. Your boyfriend is not a heavy drinker. Yes? This means his tolerance is quite low. Which means when he gets drunk, he gets drunk. As someone said in the comments, blackout does not necessarily mean truth. The things he said may have simply been things about you that he saw as flaws, but chose to bury them because he saw the grander picture. This is not for certain, but it's still a possibility. Is he talking to other people? If not, and you combine that with respecting your boundaries and wishes, and also even admitting that he understood if you chose to leave him, then that does raise questions on whether or not what he said had a truthful merit. You said that your boyfriend threatened violence against his friend? Is he typically a violent individual while sober, tipsy, drunk? If not, then my above point is reinforced that his state of drunkenness perhaps may be hindering who he really is. Drunkenness, I must say, does not excuse behavior. Even if he truly did not mean the words that came from his mouth, it still stings, and it does not make your feelings less valid. However, his drunkenness may give an explanation as to why things came out the way they did. Going forward, what I would do is have a sit-down conversation, as at this point the ball is in your court, and talk about the specific things he mentioned. Review the text you sent, and get deep into knowing where he stands on all of those things. Talk about insecurities, needs, wants, likes, dislikes, the whole 9 yards. Most of all though, communicate. Make sure you're letting him know verbally that what he did was unacceptable, hurtful, and quite damning to your relationship. This leads me to what I'd do next. This is entirely up to you, but this is my opinion. Regulate his drinking. If he knows that what he said was not true, he now knows how he behaves while drunk. It would be perfectly acceptable to limit his drinking, if not get rid of the habit entirely. This point really has to be subscribed by him, however, because in the end you can't make that decision for him. He has to, but it'd be you proposing that idea to him. It sounds like he was specifically going through whatever he thought would hurt you most, not what he actually thought. Some people are mean when drunk. Some people feel their insecurities much more and act defensively. It's possible that he's been worried about proposing, and his fears about it all came out in that horrible mess of dehumanizing insults. I think this is a good opportunity to assess the relationship and make a decision together about where it's going. You know he was going to propose, so that means talking about what marriage means to you, why you think you should choose each other, etc. Maybe you'll come out of it stronger. Maybe you'll realize it's not working. Honestly, this is a tough one. Like true blackout drunk people are so gone their brains are basically drowning. I don't know that I'd take 100% of what came out to heart, but to be fair, he could partially be feeling some of those things. At a minimum, I would suggest if you want to stay, he should give up drinking, full stop. Both so it doesn't happen again, and an act of good faith of the gravity of his words. How do you feel being in the house with him now? The truth is you can't unhear those words. And they were hurtful. Deeply hurtful. And not just fixated on one topic. Multiple topics. I'd definitely not let any words of marriage, engagement come up until you have plenty of time to process this. Therapy? Maybe. But it's basically going to be focused on whether or not you can let those words go. I don't envy you. Hey, recently my mom got blackout drunk, said some horrible things, tried to jump out of a moving car. The next day when she saw my face, she asked what happened and cried as told her. It was really sad for all of us, and no, she won't even pick up a drink. She was never a drinker in the first place, that's how she blacked out so easily. They call alcohol a spirit for a reason, because sometimes it's like the person you loved is possessed by a demon who hates you. I recommended some counseling because if there is some truth to what your man said, he obviously loves you and wants to inspire of these intrusive thoughts, and therapy will help you guys work it out. I'm so sorry that happened. Here's the thing. Commenters are saying his being drunk means he was being honest. But that is only partially true. It's our choices that determine our character. Right? His sober mind chooses you. Only when alcohol stripped him of his ability to choose did that ugly part show. That ugly part is there. And will be. And I'm glad you saw it before you were married. And he needs to quit drinking for good. But I think a man who chooses consistently to be patient and kind and non-violent and respects your wishes is worth giving a second chance. I love this subreddit sometimes. Whenever somebody cheats or physically abuses somebody while drunk, it's not the alcohol's fault, but the individual's fault for not controlling themselves while drunk. Now, when it's verbal abuse, people are more forgiving and likely to blame it on alcohol. It's weird. It doesn't really matter what anybody thinks. It's about whether you feel you can move past this. Will you be able to marry this guy knowing everything he's said? Will you be able to move past this and fully forgive him? More importantly, do you think that he will be able to follow the guidelines you set for forgiveness to really atone for his horrible behavior? Unlike what other people are saying, breaking up wouldn't be premature if you believe you can't forgive him. And that's your right. So you can find somebody who knows their limits, doesn't behave violently towards his friends, you, or animals, and respects you 100% of the time. Allow yourself to be angry. Then once you're calm, have a serious think about whether you want to continue this relationship. I wish you the best. It's up to you if you can move past this. He was verbally abusive. Alcohol and being blackout drunk aren't a get-out-of-jail-free pass. Personally, I couldn't see a relationship coming back from that without couples and individual therapy for you both, and him staying 100% sober for good. I think the point of whether or not he meant those things is moot. He said them. It's unlikely you'll forget them. If I were you, I wouldn't put up with it. And I'd break up. However, it is up to you. Best of luck. I have a few thoughts. 1. I think he doesn't mean anything he said. At least not to any meaningful extent. The fact that he was already trying to start a fight with his friend shows pretty clearly that he was just angry and lashing out. And he said what he thought would be most hurtful. And he was right. He was just very drunk. And very angry for whatever reason. Either something happened, or he's just an angry drunk. Point 2. I think as long as he agrees to never drink like that again, It's likely that this won't happen again. And if he doesn't agree to never drink like that again, I'd end things ASAP. Point 3. The first 2 points don't matter at all if you can't forget about and move past what he said. And it would be completely fair if you can't. All that being said, you're 22 and 23. You're both so young. You don't need to decide on getting married now. You don't even need to decide whether you think your relationship will work long-term now. You have plenty of time. There's nothing stopping you from seeing how the next 6 months or the next year plays out. Seeing how you feel, and deciding from there. I know a lot of people are saying that drunk doesn't mean the truth. But that's some really specific shit he said. The fact that he offered to pay bills so you could save and move out is a pretty big deal. The ring with your mother's diamond is a big deal. He needs to agree to no drinking like that ever again. You don't need to comfort him. If anything, you can allow him to comfort you and rebuild trust. I've known some angry drunks. They bottle up their resentment and then spray at you when they are drunk. Opt this as your decision. You are so young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Do you want to give him a chance and hope there won't be a repeat? Will you ever be able to get his words out of your mind? How would you feel if you disagree with him about something in the future? Planning to propose does not mean he will not verbally abuse you again. Whether he really thought anything he said was true. You now have an example of how he might treat you the next time he gets blackout drunk. Seems like the conversation might need to be about the drinking. Also, y'all are really, really young and have been together since you were what? 16? When you argue, how does that go? Does he try to hurt you to derail the argument and then over-apologize to undermine your anger? That's who he is when he gets drunk. I would never be with a mean drunk. It's good that you found out now. Many men can get drunk without being abusive. Many. So my uncle once gave my mum some advice and it's always stuck with me. You have to know the nature of a person. Meaning, when someone does something and you're wondering about it, having doubts about them or whatever, you have to think of what you know about the person they are. And if what they've done or what's been said doesn't seem like who they are, then there's some other explanation for it. I think it's pretty good advice generally. With the caveat of some other good advice that, when people show you who they are, believe them. Wait for therapy. Alcohol lowers inhibitions and impairs judgment. But it is also a depressant. What this means, among other things, is that the brain can become fixated on things that were minor or inconsequential. To the alcohol-poisoned brain, a small or incidental worry can seem like a major issue. Factually, whether or not someone is a mean drunk, instead of a happy drunk, has more to do with brain chemistry than it does with their underlying feelings. It's likely caused in part by neuroinflammation. It's entirely fair of you to be angry and distraught. Someone you trusted came home acting unrecognizable and cruel. Given how he responded to the friend, I'd guess he's an aggressive, mean drunk, and was lashing out at you. I'd say that it means that when he's sober he's making the choice not to be an asshole. But it doesn't mean he secretly thinks the things he said, especially since it was all very societal negatives that he'd previously been supportive of. I'd sit down and have an honest conversation with him about this. I'd suggest asking him to not get drunk again. I wouldn't be surprised if he was already planning on this one. And be clear that you will be going to counseling once you can. In the meantime, don't force yourself to forgive, but try not to unfairly hold a grudge. My policy is to forgive things like this, but not forget. For what it's worth, I have my now husband on video back in our youth. Blackout and ranting about how he got kicked out of a club because they wouldn't put their shirts on. He was never at a club that night, and the he's referring to are his 2 dogs snoring at his feet. Alcohol is a drug, not a truth serum. Too much of it and it messes your brain up.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.